All right, y'all, even though I am Team Black, let's not get it twisted over here. Rhaenyra is the rightful heir. I don't even know why that's the argument, is a question at this point. Just stand in front of Cyrax if you have an issue with it. If not, then just bend the knee. But yeah, even though I'm Team Black, I just wanted to talk about Aegon, right? Aegon's story, because it is absolutely tragic. And I think that it started all the way back with Otto, right? So I wanted to discuss that. This video is going to be a little ranty, but let's get into it. All right, so before we get into the video, I would just like to say, first of all, thank you all so much for 10,000 subscribers. That's so wild to celebrate. I would just like to let you know that my Patreon page is live. It's up. If you like to hear me rant and act foolish on YouTube, you will definitely enjoy my Patreon. There you'll get Patreon exclusive videos, okay? One is already up there. I did a video talking about 10 cool shows that I think y'all need to watch. They're underrated. You probably have not heard of them, but I really, really enjoyed them. Only the patrons will be able to see that video. It's already up on my page. You'll get access to behind the scenes content. And the highest tier is like $10 per month. The highest tier, people in the highest tier will be able to vote on the content topics that are going to be on Patreon, of course, in the exclusives, and also on YouTube. Occasionally, I'll have some polls there, and the patrons of this tier will be able to vote. Also on Patreon, I did a dramatic reading of an excerpt of my upcoming book that will be self-published. It is a sequel, by the way, to Xeraxia, Wrath of the God King. It's called Xeraxia, The Vengeance of Coldwind. It will be out later this year. I'm going to make an audiobook of it as well. So the dramatic reading that is on Patreon is just to get a feel for what the audiobook will sound like. So yeah, very excited. Like I said, reaching 10K subs is really, really amazing. Can't thank y'all enough. And yeah, I cannot wait to build an even more exclusive community on Patreon. I want to interact with y'all over there. Let's get into it. So before we really start talking about it, I just wanted to set this baseline, set this foundation, right? We all know the point of the lore, the show, whatever. To me, it's about, okay, there's a chair over there made of swords. It's called the Iron Throne. What would you do to yourself? What would you do to your family, to the common folk, to the citizens, to get that power, to maintain that power, to shield yourself from the power of the... You see what I'm saying? What would you do to get that power, to maintain that power, to shield yourself from the power of the throne, to survive that power? Do you see what I'm saying? What would you do? Now, for everyone in the history of the lore, including the Greens and the Blacks, I think that's the message, right? Because even on the Black side that I'm rooting for, Rhaenyra and them have decided that it's worth it to go to literal war, kill many citizens and soldiers, burn people alive to get the Iron Throne, to get what she sees that she deserves, right? All these high lords and ladies and politicians and heirs, they could all decide, hey, fighting for power in this messed up system, in this messed up way, is not worth all this. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to destroy dragons, innocents, soldiers, my family, just for the sake of gaining power. Now, the reason why we like this crazy lore, this show, is because it's kind of like real life. Okay, say you decide you're not gonna fight for this power, right? There are also repercussions to that, right? If you're like, I don't want to just go burning people up and waging war and stuff, there's also repercussions to not fighting, especially if someone else is in possession of said power. People are hunting you, trying to assassinate you if you're the heir, or even have the possibility of becoming the heir. People have assigned meaning and power to the system. In the system, power resides where men think it resides, right? That's true for the political system in House of the Dragon. That's true for the systems that we see in the real world, right? So yeah, whether you're green or black, the lore to me, Like the lore, the story has always been about what will you do in these man-made systems of power to survive, maybe to usurp, to latch onto power, to gain power. How do those systems affect the human psyche and emotions? So getting to Otto, right, with this understanding, under the system, Otto had chosen to be as ambitious as humanly possible, right? For the Hightower name, whatever, for prestige, for honor. And when you want to do something really extra shisty, just say that it was for the good of the realm. the good of the realm. He decided that when bartering and reaching for power, it was worth it to send his young daughter. This is what Otto decided. It was worth it to him to send his young daughter into the chambers of the grown-ass king. Otto decided that, hey, we know what we came to the Red Keep for. It is to vie for power. It is to claw for power. So I'm going to get down with the rest of them. To me, it is worth it to send my young-ass daughter into the chambers of the king. To me, it's worth it to even be a part of a system that allows for something like this to happen. It's worth it. It's worth it. Instead of building a relationship with her, right, with Alicent, that was founded on love and trust and emotional security, it was built on manipulation. And, well, we're doing this for the good of the realm and for the good of the Hightowers and for our position and da-da-da-da-da. It was not based on, oh, Alicent, I just love you. I just love you for who you are, and that's it. It was built on Alicent probably thinking, well, let me see what I can do to gain my father's approval today, child, if he gonna give it to me. If he gonna give it to me. Otto used to be telling Alicent that she has to do the most uncomfortable, heinous things. And then he would get mad when she didn't do it to his liking. To me, Otto did not raise Alicent like his just beloved daughter and that's it. I think he raised her like an asset that had better deliver what was needed to their political faction or whatever. And that can seriously traumatize someone. That's why she holds on to the rules, I think, of politics and decorum like they're the rules of the universe, like they're the laws of physics instead of some rules that some sexist man made, like, or some sexist society made, right? I think her method of thinking is if she had to sacrifice so much of herself to follow those silly ass rules, then girl, she gonna make sure that Rhaenyra and everybody else around her in this bitch is gonna follow them too. You know what I mean? She said, I'm not gonna be miserable by myself. So now Alicent, in my opinion, has been raised to think, well, what's more important than these ambitions? Instead of envisioning ways to fight back within the system, if you can even do that or whatever, like Rhaenys said to her, Alicent just built a window within her prison. And I think it's the same window she's been looking out of ever since she was younger and had to go into Viserys's room at night. It's the same window. And she said, well, this is, and she thinks, in my opinion, well, this is as good as it's gonna get. I'm sure she was thinking that with Viserys, like, girl, just every time he got on top of her, just like, all right, girl, let me just look out my little ass, tired ass, small ass window, girl, and hope for some sunlight to come through it. Because right now I'm in jail. Right now I'm in prison. Okay? As nice as Viserys is, whatever, as kind as he was, whatever, Alicent should have never had to go through that. Like, that's just point blank, period. Alicent should have never had to go through that, bearing this guy's kids. The trauma of childbirth, just should have never had to go through that. And now that I'm thinking about it, the trauma of childbirth and having to go through all these things so young, like, I mean, to me, it would not be surprising if, I mean, clearly, Alicent resents her kids. I mean, she had them so young, she didn't. Do you see what I'm saying? It's just this cycle of trauma, this cycle of generational trauma. So yeah, I think Alicent had been sacrificing herself, looking through this small ass window, and she was just like, well, this is as good as it's gonna get, especially if I still want to maintain some semblance of power. You know, maybe that could help me, right, in this situation. And like I said, all this thinking is a direct result of how Otto raised her. Yes, she's an adult now and she can think for herself, which is why, Rhaenys dragged her in season 1, I think. But Otto definitely started Alicent on this path. So you have someone who thinks this way, has sacrificed so much of her own being, of her own self to play this Game of Thrones. That person is now raising Aegon, or really it's half-assed raising him. And to me, I'm just like, you can't do a poor job of raising someone in the damn royal family. They rich as hell. They can already do whatever the hell they want. It's just like, that's why he's a menace to society as it is. So yeah, we switch into Aegon, and now I'm thinking about how much Alicent might resent some of her kids, especially having gone through the trauma of childbirth so young from Viserys, who she didn't even want to go mess around with at night, but her father made her. Now you having these kids and they looking in your face, girl, like they run around. They got dragons and shit too. Like, girl, I don't even want to touch that. I don't even want to deal with that. So I can understand why things have developed or devolved in this way, right? So real quick, first let me say, y'all, I can understand why Aegon is going through what he's going through. At the same time, like, I'm never gonna forget that he's a rapist. Oh my god. But I will say that the actor Tom and the writers are doing a good job of displaying just how tragic Aegon's story is. I think his dragon was like the only being to ever truly love him, right? But yeah, his mother Alicent, we already went through how she thinks because of, Otto starting her on this path. She made all these sacrifices. So she tells Aegon that he needs to just shut the hell up and sacrifice too if need be, right? Alicent is just like Otto in that they both took an inexperienced child who was clearly uncomfortable and unprepared for what they're being forced to do. Then they had the nerve to reprimand said child when they were not, quote unquote, good enough. Alicent, you're his mama. Why don't that boy know High Valyrian? Why don't that boy know Valyrian? Yes, it's his personal responsibility, but still, y'all wanted Aegon to be king so bad, but nobody was forcing him to learn shit while y'all was making plans to take the Iron Throne, like y'all forced him to take the crown. Y'all forced him to take the crown, but ain't forced him to do nothing else. Otto and Alicent, because of their own political situations, because of their ambitions, because of their undying dedication to power, even if it means sacrificing themselves or sacrificing decency, they both shoved their inexperienced, traumatized, deeply unhappy children to the front lines in the Red Keep, and then got mad when these kids started flailing or disintegrating under the pressure or complaining. Don't get me wrong, Aegon is a dumbass, but how much of that was because he was allowed to be at first? Like, how much of that is because everyone in that castle is so obsessed with power and decorum and the throne, but no one is obsessed with building better relationships with their own flesh and blood? I think that the show and the lore does a good job of displaying what becomes of the self, what becomes of human beings once the only thing that matters to them is the Game of Thrones, clawing for power, stepping on others to get it, sacrificing your morals or standing whatever to get it. It does a good job of showing, or what happens to other people when people use the power of the Iron Throne against others. It just does a good job of showing what becomes of you if you're able to survive King's Landing, because it's just inhumane. The system is inhumane. It completely goes against, it's just inhumane. How y'all treat kids in the system, how y'all treat women in the system, is inhumane. And so I think some people, like, defense mechanism to deal with that is to just, like, ignore the horrors that they have to face. Alicent, Alicent, I'm looking at you. Ignore that and just like, well, I'm just gonna have to make the best of the situation that I have, and if that means manipulation and all kind of stuff, then I'm going to do it. Some people make that decision. And so, given the history of Otto and Alicent, how Otto raised Alicent, how Alicent dealt with that, how Alicent took certain things from Otto and raised Aegon, like, thinking about all that, Aegon never stood a chance to me. Aegon never had a chance from the day he was born. He never stood a chance. Never stood a chance. I mean, now you got that boy riding drunk as hell into battle on a dragon. I mean, he ain't never done this shit before. It's just, of course it culminates into, of course it climaxes into Aegon trying to prove himself. Of course, because after, I mean, what did Alicent have to do for Otto's approval? Can Aegon even get Alicent to produce? She even cared? Do you see what I'm saying? Of course, after all this generational trauma, it climaxes to Aegon just desperately trying to prove himself to anybody. Just somebody who will take him seriously, right? Somebody. And even that was not enough. Like, Aegon never stood a chance. Please tell me what you think of this topic. I wanted to discuss Aegon because everyone was talking like, oh my gosh, like, I know everyone was like, I know I'm supposed to be like, not really give a damn about Aegon like that, but like, people are like, I feel kind of bad for this guy. Like, but like, and I was like, why do we feel bad? And digging deeper is because he never stood a chance. He never, just like all that trauma building up in the Red Keep from Otto's days, like, he just never was going to be able to put up a fight, especially with a mama like Alicent. No shade. It's just trauma begets trauma begets trauma. So tell me what y'all think about this topic. Tell me what you think about Aegon get his shit rocked by Melee's girl. Oh my God. He had on that silly ass oversized armor for nothing. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Love y'all so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll check y'all out later. Peace. All right, y'all, make sure that you're going to www.zeraxia.com. When you join the wait list there on the site, you will be the first to be notified when I drop my sequel. Also, you'll immediately get chapter 1 of my upcoming sequel of the upcoming book sent to your email as a PDF. So check that out. Also, this is a different excerpt from my upcoming book, so you definitely want to pause to read if you're trying to get your life. Keep in mind that this upcoming book, this sequel, is following up the first book that is already released called Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King. I released it a few years ago. It was my introduction to writing fantasy and stuff. So just go easy on me. But either way, as you can see here, it's given 4.9 stars. It's given 4.9 stars. So yeah, check out Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King while you wait for Zeraxia, The Vengeance of Coldwind, right? And go to Zeraxia.com, sign up, join the wait list, get your free chapter. Thank you so much.